Let's talk about simplifying and focusing our goals and our life purpose. Such a great topic. I love this. And it was inspired to me by a podcast I was listening to of a gentleman. He was being interviewed, and he had muscular dystrophy, I think is what it is. And it's the deterioration of your muscles. To him, it was to the extent that he literally had no movements anywhere except for his face. Wow, can you imagine being limited to only your face for that's it. Everything else is a limitation. You can't move anything except what's in your face. Most people would go through life and use that as an excuse, a fairly legitimate excuse, really, to basically throw in the towel and say, you know what, I've lived a decent life. I've had some privileges, and I got a bad hand of cards dealt to me, and it is what it is, and I'm just going to live out the rest of my days as comfortably as possible, and that's it. Not this guy. Very inspiring to listen to his story, because I'm sitting here listening to this podcast, and here's a guy, the only thing he has control over is his face. So his mouth is moving, and his eyes, of course, that's it. That's all he's got. And so he said something that really struck me. He could have thrown in the white towel, like I just said, but he didn't. He said, there's a lot of things I used to be able to do. I can't anymore. I can't play basketball. I can't play any sport. I can't do anything that requires, physical activity. Really, basically, most things he had to scratch off his list of things that he could do, that over time, slowly, he was less and less able to do until he's completely incapable of doing even basic tasks. But this guy looked at things from a different perspective. He said what happened was there were a few things that I could do. And because there were only a few things that I could do, I did them a lot, and I got really, really good at them because he focused. Now, what could he do? What can you do with your eyes and your mouth? Well, you can read and you can speak, and that's what he did. He read a lot, he wrote a lot, and I'm sure someone had to help him. Maybe he dictated while somebody typed, using resources. He was able to build a team of people, and he's built and sold a couple of companies, 7 figures, $1 million+ deals, companies that he's built and sold, and now he's speaking. I'm like, here I am. I've got full use of my arms and legs. I'm healthy. I'm not too old, not too young. I've got friends. I've got talents, abilities, resources. What excuses do I have for not doing what he's been able to do? Well, if he can do it, I can do it. That's why it's inspiring. But what I got out of this was his attitude toward the whole situation is what really, really struck me. Instead of throwing in the white towel, like most of us would do, and legitimately, most of us would justifiably be okay with it. Somebody, throwing in the white towel. If ever there was a reason to give up, this man had it, right? If ever there was a reason to say, it's just, what am I going to do? I can blink and I can move my lips. That's all I got, right? I think most of us would sympathize to the extent of go, you know what? This is a guy that can't really do much. Got it. The rest of us, though, we don't have excuses. This guy, he's got an excuse. He didn't accept that for himself. So he wrote and he spoke. And he still does. He writes and speaks. And because he focused, he couldn't do anything else. Literally, he was forced to. But what a lesson for the rest of us who aren't forced to. We can choose to focus. And what power there is in that. He got so good at writing and speaking. And reading, writing, and speaking. That's what he does. He inspires audiences all over. I think he travels all over the world. But he inspires people and motivates people to overcome their obstacles. And he's got certain topics that he talks about and he studies and he writes about. And that's it. I mean, what a powerful lesson it was for me to see Sometimes I'm all over the place. I don't know about you, but I'll try something for 3 weeks and I'll be like, I've given it a good hard try. I got to try something new. It's just not working. You ever done that? 3 weeks, 4 weeks? It's like, in the big scheme of things, that's nothing. You ask any entrepreneur who has gotten any level of success what it's taken to get there. And I guarantee you they're going to tell you it's a lot more than 2 or 3 weeks worth of effort to get to anywhere significant. Many times it's years of effort, and many times it's years of focused effort that is hyper-focused in one place to really brand yourself as an expert in that field. It's not easy and it's not overnight. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Okay? You're in it for the long term. So, what I'm trying to say, I guess, is don't get too scattered with your goals. All right, this guy that had this condition of his muscles, he was forced to focus. He focused all of his time on reading and writing and speaking because he had to. He had no other option. How about you? Where are you focusing your time? Where are you focusing on all of your efforts? Maybe it's a side hustle right now and you have a full-time job and you're trying to build something up to the point where you don't have to keep going to your full-time job every day. Well, that's great. All the more important it is for you to focus, pick something and focus in and really own that space. A mentor of mine once said that the riches are in the niches. Some of us call them niches, but we're going to call them riches or niches this time because it rhymes with riches and it makes the phrase sound better. The riches are in the niches. You go an inch wide and a mile deep. Okay, the days of being good at a lot of things are gone. We are a specialized society because of a global economy that we're in. And there is a market for the strangest things because we're connected all across the world. So you can be hyper-focused on some of the most odd things you've ever heard of, industries or specialties or talents that you're good at, and there's going to be a market out there big enough to support you and allow you to have a very reasonable amount of success. So the more focused you can get, the better. So instead of putting your goals all over the place, trying different things, try picking your most favorite, the things you're most passionate about. Pick that and then drive that sucker as deep as you can, as hard as you can. Just like this guy got good at reading, writing, and speaking. And they all go together. They're kind of a trifecta, right? Reading, writing, speaking. That's what he wanted to own. And he owned it. What are you going to do? What are you going to own? Are you trying to own too much? Are you spreading yourself too thin across too much real estate? And if so, what can you back out of? What can you purge in your life? What pursuits can you purge, simplify, focus, and then drill down and take any amount of extra time that you have, side hustle, or if it's full-time, even better, to accelerate your success in that one area. Once you've established yourself a reasonable amount of success in an area, it's easy to expand into different areas. You have to pick something to start. So if you're trying 3 or 4 different things at the same time, just because you're like me and you don't like saying no to something and your mind is always bouncing around and it's hard to stick with something, well, force yourself into one area. Pick one area and commit to it long term. Own the space, get really good at it, have success, then branch out and try other things after that. From everything that I've heard, everything that I've read, every bit of advice that I've received from entrepreneurs, any reasonable amount of success, that is what they are saying. And that's what I'm passing on to you, because that's what I was inspired by listening to the story of this gentleman who was, forced to do it, but it worked, and it's working tremendously for him. He's very, very successful. And you can be too. So follow those principles, and they will lead you to success. Just hang in there, be patient, focus, pick something, and drill away at that one thing as hard and long as you can. You know, it's like water. It's like a stream of water. If you're spraying dirt and you want to spray a tunnel, water is very powerful. But if you turn your hose to kind of that light spray, you're just going to wet the dirt. You're not going to really move it. You focus all your water into a stream and you spray long enough, you'll spray out a whole tunnel, and it'll drill a hole through the dirt. It'll make a huge difference that a light spray won't, because you're covering too much territory. Same amount of water, same amount of effort over time. One makes a huge difference, has a big impact, and the other, all it does is wet down the dirt. So don't be a dirt wetter. How about that? Don't be a dirt wetter. Be focused on your goals, and you'll go places.